Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session of dtalks or Disruptive Literacy Talks. I'm your host, Mashood. The SDG 4 goals are very ambitious, and especially because of the pandemic, we see a lot of the gains that have been made have unfortunately either been paused and in many places reversed. So, if as a world we have to achieve the goals of SDG 2030, we have to realize that it is important to understand that the problems or the challenges to achieve these goals of access, quality, and equity in education, the problems are very diverse across the world. And if we want to solve these very diverse problems, then the solutions also have to be very contextualized and have to come from the local areas and the local contexts. And one organization which has been leading the work with respect to developing hyper localized solutions coming from the communities, and is doing this across several continents and nearly 10 countries, is Aga Khan Foundation. And we are very honored to have a representative from the Aga Khan Foundation to talk about this very ambitious and very innovative participatory research based project, which is looking at finding different solutions from the local level and then making the local stakeholders in school education system as the actors of change. And this project is called Schools2030. So we would like to welcome the national coordinator of the Aga Khan Foundation here in India, Mr. Saurabh Rai. Saurabh ji is a development professional, is an education professional with a very rich experience. He's leading the national efforts with respect to Aga Khan Foundation School 2030 project in India. And previously, he's also been associated in leading positions at Piramal Foundation, Kaiwale Education Foundation, and also has been an academic and pedagogy lead in the Azim Premji Foundation as well. So, Saurabh ji, welcome to dtalks, and thank you so much for finding time to come and share about this wonderful project. We are very eagerly looking forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Mashood. So let's go through the presentation, and then after that, if there are some questions or some queries, we may have that discussion. So I'm sharing my screen. Just give me a minute. Is this slide is visible?
Yes, Saurabh ji, we can see the slide. Yes, okay. You may proceed.
Yeah, thank you. So Schools 2030 is a 10-year participatory research-based program focused on learning improvement in 1,000 government schools across 10 countries, supporting positive deviance of about what works to improve holistic learning outcomes. And these are the 10 countries where we are working: India, Brazil, Kenya, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Portugal, Kazakhstan, Tanzania, and Uganda. So these are the main countries where we are working under this program. One of the key questions which we are searching the answer for this question in the next whole decade is basically, can a school and classroom based participatory research and learning improvement program using key principles of human-centered design thinking, focusing on key transition years, that is the age group of 5, 10, and 15. Why these years? Because these are the last year for pre-primary, last year for primary, and last year for secondary. So these are key transition years where we are focusing. Can focus on these lead to locally rooted educational solutions that inform system level approaches. Can this help us to improve holistic learning outcomes, focusing on marginalized communities of learners? So this is one of the key questions for us for the whole decade in this program. So our idea is basically to catalyze locally rooted education solutions that can inform system level approaches, focusing on holistic learning outcomes. There are 27 learning outcomes. We will go through that in some of the later slides. And the idea is to focus on these key transition years. So each year we have a kind of assessment process in these transition ages of children, where we feel that or we view that these are critical year for children when they go from one category of schooling to the next category of schooling, and therefore how that category of schooling has impacted them is very critical to map. Uh, so the larger idea of School 2030 is to work with teachers, work with stakeholders in co-identifying their challenges. It's a kind of journey where we work with them in identification of their own challenges, enable them through developing new solutions, and their own role in development of this solution is very critical. Uh, Once the solution is developed, they can test the solution through a prototype development process, which can further supported by a funding process. So there is a flexi fund availability in this whole program. They can implement these solutions in their classroom and see if that is going to help them in improve their uh, learning, the quality of learning they are trying to work on. So that is the whole focus of this whole program. Uh, there are so our view of education is that education is a multidimensional, connected, and dynamic process. Uh, so if it's a multidimensional, connected, and dynamic, so it's a very complex system, and we want to work with system to reform that. The major focus in these four areas of knowledge, skills, values, and attitude. So we are not only focusing on the areas which are the subject areas. The softer skills are very critical, and we as an organization view that these are the key learning indicators for school education, and these are very critical when we also talk about children in their second decade of the life, when they're shifting from the formal schooling to the work. So for that transition also, this is very critical. Uh, So School 2030, basically, what we are doing is in this process is we use human-centered design as a approach, and these are major 6 steps of human-centered design which we follow or we use. So in before engaging with each school or each space, I can say the larger idea is to uh, work with them through assessment process where teacher assess or teacher understand that what is the key challenge, and these challenges comes from the both ways. One is their experiences, their anecdotal evidences. The other is the key assessment data. So how data and experience both inform them to identification of challenge, that is very critical. Once they identify the challenge, the idea is to design certain kind of solutions through engagement on secondary research, through engagement of with their stakeholders. So they design the solutions for these challenges. Once the prototype of the solutions get designed, uh, in this program, as I shared, that there is a provision of flexi funding. This funding support is given to them uh, to experience the implementation of the solution. So they experience this implementation of the solution. Uh, we support them through tracking, through the process of iteration during the implementation of the prototype. And with this whole process, the larger idea is if this whole implementation enables them or show that there is this certain kind of impact after implementing a new idea or a new solution, this is open to for showcasing of the process. And this showcasing can be at the level of their state, at the level of country. There are certain kind of events which we have planned for teachers where they participate and they share their experiences. In India, this program is implementing. We are implementing this program in 100 schools, and these schools are in Bihar. These spaces are in Bihar. And when I'm saying schools or spaces, it means we have 30 Anganwadis, we have 40 elementary schools, we have 30 senior secondary schools, and 10 youth spaces. So this whole cohort of 100, this whole cohort of 100 schools or children are further divided in the age group of 5 to 25. And the idea is to track the children who joined us today for next 10 years, that where they have reached. So there is a whole cohort tracking also which is planned in the program. When we began our intervention in India, uh, it was basically COVID, which began somewhere in 2020 when the program was implemented in India. So the first, you can say, the first disaster we faced was COVID. So we have to do multiple kind of re-strategy, and therefore, during the first and second wave of COVID, what we have planned is focusing on two segment of children, because this is basically from the field observation that there in Bihar there are parents of children who have mobile access, and there are parents and children who doesn't have a mobile. And the larger intervention is further designed through these six key activities during last, you can say, a year or so. Uh, so one of the critical part or one of the key innovations through HCD where we reached is basically learning at home kit. Uh, how we engaged in HCD process for this whole idea, uh, that I can share later on. But largely now this is a simple, low cost kit which is available to children of Bihar. And in this kit, they can easily engage with multiple kind of material. Their parents can easily engage with the multiple kind of materials. The kit is the kit is very much appreciated by parents and children, and the feedback shared to us about this kit is very positive. Uh, it has almost 65 kinds of material, and when I'm saying 65 kinds of material, it means it's a simple books, simple A4 plain sheets, colored sheets, few colors, few puzzles, few ribbons, few colored blank sheets. But this material, in a way, uh, creates certain kind of motivation to parents and children to engage with them. So the feedback of this kit is very positive, and based on that, we have also begun with uh, a kind of forward and backward linkage of this kit. So initially this kit was planned for class 1, 2 and 3, but now this is also planned for class 4th and 5th, and also for the early years of children, which is 3, 4 and 5. The other key engagement is voluntary learning activity center. So during COVID, we met multiple youths who are very critical, who are very eager to support their uh, their nearby children in their villages. And the larger idea of this is how we get this kind of children who have a feeling of civic engagement, a feeling of citizenship. So the initial intervention or the initial discussion of this kind of volunteers is basically how you can take a lead role to ensure that the children nearby your environment, when school is closed, can you guide them, can you help them for having a better interaction processes. Because with COVID, this whole process of childhood has also changed, to be very frank. And the children who are at home, the children who are not going to school, their experiences is a lot of change. So what we felt that there need to be some spaces where children in a group of 5 or a group of 10 can come together, maintain the social distance, and can sit together, and at least uh, someone guide them through a specific process of interaction. So we got this kind of volunteers in Patna and Samastipur, and the idea is to engage with these volunteers for the leadership, taking responsibility to engagement kind of role. And based on that, these volunteers engage with children, and they teach them daily for 2 hours for 6 days in a week. And larger idea is to ensure that children have certain kind of experiences within the education, focus on literacy, numeracy, and the skills I have shared earlier. The other very simple solution is when we talk to teachers, and the school were closed for almost 18 months. Uh, how to move ahead? A teacher in Samastipur shared that can we do something so that children have certain kind of skills of problem solving. They can showcase their skills of problem solving. Can we take a board to a outside space of a school and place certain questions there, and children can solve these questions? So from a actual board of a school to this whole idea of basically folding whiteboards on the outer wall of community and moving towards Bujuto Jane, they are the kind of puzzles old people share with these volunteers, and they place it on the whiteboard of on these boards is very critical. And then the participation of children is something which is very appreciable. So this learning world is another key idea which came through this. The one of the other key idea is basically this whole WhatsApp poster, simple WhatsApp poster having 4 characters: father or mother, a child, boy or girl, with a single one-line instruction, sharing with the parents and following it with the parents that can we do a simple activity with your children, and they can engage with this thing. So during COVID, when we talk to the parents shared that they have no idea how to engage. These small things uh, helps parents to have certain kind of thoughts of key engagement during this process with children. We also begin with the virtual classes, and this is because class 10th children connected to us in both places, and they shared that their board examination is coming in Bihar. If I'm not in Bihar, last year also they have taken board examination, and this year also the board examination is going to be happen. So when schools were closed, they connected to us asking that because of this board examination, we are in immense pressure. So can we help us for preparing for board examination, which is critical for us in our journey? So this whole idea of virtual classes came from that. There are multiple kind of youth development workshops where we engage with youths. These are few key activities, few key engagement during COVID with the schools, with children, with parents, with teachers. Let's go through let's take example of learning at home kit and how we use HCD approach in development of this whole product. Let's go through that. So this product get developed during the first wave of COVID. The idea came during the first wave of COVID, which was basically last year, somewhere June, July, August. And we all know that first case of COVID in Bihar came in the month of March. So when we connected to parents in these 2 districts, Patna and Samastipur, we observed that their literacy level is very low. They doesn't have access to devices. They have very low resources. The routine of children has changed. If they have access to table, if they have access to TV, children spend a lot of time to TV. If they don't have access to TV, they spend a lot of time in open play, which is very good, but not in a planned way. There is very less interaction between parents and children. So these are few critical observations during first wave of COVID. When we talk to parents about engagement with children, they share that they doesn't have the ideas on how to engage. Some of them have shared that if they have devices, they shared that there are classrooms going on, but teachers share with children that please mute. So children are on mute. So conventional school, online mode, this is very difficult to manage for them. What we further observed with the parents that lot of worksheets, lot of link of from on YouTube was shared with them, at least the areas where we are working. And these are few examples of sheets, few example of screens, what the problem they are facing. So they're not able to download. They're not able to respond on WhatsApp groups. So this is something during the first wave of COVID, which means June, July 2020. June, July, August 2020 was the duration when we experienced all these things. So we work with a parent who is basically Sudarshan, and he has 2 children from 4 year and 9-year-old children. And we notice that teachers are sending content to them. Teachers are making effort in sending the content. They are following with them on messages in groups, but parents are not able to reply. So this parent is not able to reply. This is, and there are a lot of parents who represent Sudarshan. Uh, they are not able to download things. So when we experience this, the whole idea, the first idea, which where we raised is basically this WhatsApp poster. And the idea is, let's develop certain kind of posters which we can share on the WhatsApp. So with a specific character of mother and father, child and a boy or a girl, and the main communication is, can you engage in this kind of activities? So these posters were shared to them on WhatsApp. And at few places, we also place these posters in open spaces of villages. So that was also another part. But we can read only to 20 to 30% of children because of this, because many of them doesn't have the mobile. That is what we have experienced uh, during the first wave of COVID. So the problem for us was, how might we enable parents without internet to engage with children better and continue learning at home? This was the problem we have articulated for ourselves. We engaged with multiple round of brainstorming with multiple ideas, and the key three ideas which came to us was basically start a learning camp at community learning at home kit and align technological tools with teachers routine. And we thought of, let's work with learning at home kit based on certain kind of uh, selection process within the team, including stakeholders. And this is the first sketch of learning at home kit, which I'm sharing here. Just a box with few stories, matched with the school curriculum, few activity cards, and if that box can shared with these children and parents every month. So the idea of learning at home kit was a low cost kit with learning materials to improve engagement with children, continuing learning at home every month, supplemented with available resources, and inspire parents to think about learning activities. So we shared this kit as a prototype model with the parents. They shared that this is very easy. These are of the feedback. They shared that you should not place any seizure in the learning at home kit because that is very dangerous for children. So this kind of feedback is also shared. A parent from a private school shared that uh, this kind of kit is too expensive. Uh, so what we thought of that, can we develop these kits in less than 99 rupees? So that is also a kind of challenge for us, how to move to that place, while we are not taking any charge from the children. But the idea is, can this kind of material developed within a given financial uh, borderline kind of things? So these are major component of the kit. uh, Multiple use materials, illustrated activities, the cost, send everyone to the parent, community volunteers. And the larger idea is that this kit is going to be assembled by a self-help group, because one of the key tasks of this kit is assembling of each material. So can this kit also create a kind of livelihood opportunity at local level for a self-help group member? So this is linked with that also. Uh, so learning kit was basically low cost bonus material kind of thing is the major idea. This is a timeline we have defined for ourselves. And with this kind of plan process from say June to August, September, we ensured that first scheme kit came into the reality in the month of November. So this is the first kit I'm just sharing with you. And from November onwards, our idea is to have 12 kits once each month. In practicality, it takes at least 1.5 months for us to produce a kit. And this is linked with the curriculum of state. These are few materials you can easily share. Children in Bihar engaged with this kit with minimum support. The support of a parent is just required. and parents also taking active role in engagement with these children. Uh, Parents engage with children. These are few pictures you can easily see. Some very simple. So when we shared this uh, colored blank sheets, there are a lot of questions within our team also how children will use that. Some of the very simple creative ways of using the material by children. Uh, and some more. This is the very so this girl is from Samastipur and she has developed multiple New Year posters on simple A4 sheets when she received those as a part of kit. A children, and this is a pre-primary school in Bihar or Anganwadi in Bihar. They have used the simple blank sheets and writes schools 2030 curriculum. So so this kind of creativity came from children. The only idea is to give that material to them. So larger idea is to support children in this duration of difficulty, help them in improving learning outcome with the help of teacher, give certain kind of confidence to the caregiver, uh, and facilitate learning activities with them. The major goal for us during this last 2 years is basically all children are supported to learn and technology should not become a barrier for them. While we also feel that technology is critical, but on the same time, when we experience this in Bihar, we feel that for Bihar, one of the critical thing is that this technology is not available to for the masses, and therefore for them who are at the marginalized part of society, how we can support them through our intervention. This is the whole thing. This is a team which is engaged in this process. Uh, so thank you. If you have any query, any question.
Yes, Saurabh. Thank you very much for this truly wonderful presentation, and the what you have explained from the concept of very local solutions and how those solutions are then given the support. There's a very supportive ecosystem that your project is building for the teachers. They're giving a flexi fund, and then they get the opportunity to experiment it and implement it in the class. So it is truly very refreshing to see that at a very local level the innovations are done, how community has been involved in this process, and of course the efforts during COVID to reach out to every last child. So truly wonderful work being done by your team, and thank you so much for sharing it. We had some questions, and the first question, in fact, you talked about this toolkit, this kit which was created and then given to the caregivers at home. Would you like to share a bit more about who created this toolkit, and what were some of the factors which went into the discussion as to how this toolkit should look like? Any thoughts on that, please?
So during the process of development, when we engaged with the human-centered design approach, uh, one of the so our internal team was also going through the capacity building process, and they are committee volunteers from Samastipur and Patna. So in one of the human-centered design process, their assignment was to find out what is the key problem. The screen I have shared about point of view basically. So when they are from that community itself, uh, so their experience was that a lot of use of technology was promoted while in Bihar, use the excess of the availability of mobile phones is not of that much, specifically in Samastipur. If you talk about rural areas, that is very low. So one of the key observations which they have done in their villages or their nearby villages was that even though we are at multiple fronts, institutions were saying that classes were going on online, but in actual reality, their reach to children is very difficult. So in a study within Bihar shared that only 11% girls have access to mobile. And access to mobile never means that access to mobile during the time when classes are going on. Because in families, there's only one mobile and the owner is the father. And he has to work somewhere. So if we talk about these kind of children, where say out of a district, only 11% girls have 11% families have mobile, not the girls. Families have a mobile. And their access to mobile for a class is critical, means they are not attending the class at all. So how to move ahead? Therefore, our volunteers who are from these villages, they come with the idea that this whole classroom is not going on. We have to do something new. Now, what that something new is? Therefore, what is the challenge? The challenge is okay, something going on with the help of technology, but that is not working. So, how we can help children to learn at home without use of technology? That was the problem statement. And from that problem statement, there are two kind of solutions. One solution was that so we raised to three kind of solutions, to be very frank. The group which was part of that engagement, that is to three kind of solutions. One was can certain kind of technology is available so that whenever parents come or parents join, reach to the home, children have that kind of access. Whatever option was available, where we reached at that point of time was basically required data. Now these families with COVID, with the issues of livelihood, recharging the mobile is further includes a kind of cost. So other two options where we reached during July 2020 was learning at home kit or some classes where some youths can support. So we thought of that this learning at home kit is a better idea to reach with multiple round of uh, you can say multiple round of brainstorm, and there is a kind of also a voting because we are part of democracy. So in our team, we also go with the certain kind of votes. Let's work on the idea of use your voting. So team went through, okay, let's explore this whole idea of learning at home. This was new for us. This idea was, we have taken the feedback from the parents, we've taken the feedback from the teachers. They also find idea that this is a good idea. Now, how this will look like? Because idea in reality is also a kind of journey. So from idea in July 2020 to reality by November was a further a process. Who engaged in developing these materials are basically few members within our team, a round of feedback with parents, a round of feedback with selected teachers. So we take feedback from them, but the development of material is basically a very internal process. Uh, Once a material developed, we have a round of we have a process of taking feedback from children also. So it's a very rigorous process of development where multiple round of feedback is a part of material development. And then the first kit came, uh, is still a part of improvement, to be very frank. So we are improving on developing these kits, their material, but it's a good kind of product. Let me have this. So say from the first kit to the third kit. So if I will go through the material of first kit and third kit, I personally view that there's a lot of improvement in the content of the material, the kind of engagement with the material, the kind of quality of the material. Uh, so that is something which is going on. It's a journey.
Right. Thank you, Saurabh, for sharing the process behind this toolkit. Uh, Here, I wanted to ask you about the very central idea of Schools 2030, and it basically talks about this bottom up innovation and solutions, coming from within the schools, from teachers, from the local school heads and the students, right? But we see traditionally how any kind of new innovation or pedagogy or curriculum is implemented is through top down, where the policy is made at the top levels, and then it is the teachers and the middle level managers, principals are oriented about this. So how did the government stakeholders, the district education officers or the officers at the state level who are actually running the whole show at the top, what was their response to this reversal of implementation of ideas and solutions?
So, so to be very frank, there are different kind of experience. So there are different kind of experience. The first time when we approach for this whole idea, uh, it was something very different. Uh, but so we meet state level officials in Bihar. We uh, shared the idea with them, but it has not worked in a single time, to be very frank. So we meet them multiple times because we have multiple programs, other programs in Bihar also. We meet them multiple times. Uh, and this kind of change, this requires a certain kind of mindset for the official also, who are either at the state or district level or a block level. So this mindset shift is not a possible in a single interaction. This requires multiple kind of planned interaction, and now this planned interaction can be kind of in form of uh, say a 3 hours of orientation on the programs, interaction with someone who is implementing this kind of program in other country, uh, and some planned interactions of short duration of nature, but very planned, where you can go and give a page note to read. So so we worked on all these 3, 4, 5 ways to interact with the state or district level official. But to be very frank, when the first uh, hit came, uh, many of them have appreciated this because that was something which was required at that time as a idea. Before that, how the possibility of this is viewed only once they visualize certain kind of products. The whole this also required the trust on children and teachers, that okay, with engagement with them, it is possible to develop certain kind of idea or certain kind of product. So after development of first kit or after development of that learning wall, the ideas and teacher engagement in the process, and once teacher appreciate that at their level, when teacher view that okay, this is something which is going to be helpful for me, because this required a lot of change in mindset, because at a school level also, it somewhere it happened that something coming from the top down approach. So स्कूल भी कहता है आप लेकर के आए हो बताओ, and we are saying that we have nothing, we trust on you, you have that capability, you can find your problem, and if you know your problem, develop your own solution. We have nothing to offer to you, we trust on your ability, your capability, and you are part of the system. No one from the outside can solve your problem. Problem is yours, school is yours, you have that ability to do that. So when you have this kind of interaction for continuous 6 months, because in first interaction the teacher or someone can say okay, fine, then if I have my problem, I have to solve it, what you are doing here, you go. So it's not very simple interaction, it's a very difficult interaction, very difficult experience, but continuity in this build that trust with teacher, that no, they have something with us. The other critical part is that uh, once they are doing something which is happening, call these district officials, state official to these places and help this teacher to interact with them. So this facilitation helps a lot to us, at least for us.
Right.
So these are few critical things for state and district level official where we have worked with them. The basic orientation, planned informal interactions, one page reading at multiple times for the first 6 months at least.
Right. It's a very important point which you are talking about, that the interaction has to be continuous. उसको बार बार consistently करना पड़ता है, because like you said that any change in mindset, especially for teachers who've been teaching for years in their place, is not is not just a one-off interaction. Here, one more thing which we wanted to know about was, we see like there are some teachers who are very open to risk taking. कोई भी नई चीज आती है, anything new they want to implement, so they are more open to risk. But a lot of the teachers are actually, as would be the case with any other profession also, they try to avoid risk taking of starting new solution. जैसा चल रहा है वैसा ठीक है, मतलब उसी को improve कर लेंगे. So when we are talking about human centered design, local solutions, and even this thing of giving funds to teachers for trying out new things, uh, how was like how was your experience with respect to teachers trying out new things? Were they willing to risk taking new things? And then that system of support for the teacher, that you go and innovate and we will be there to support you or kind of be your back. Could you share more about this experience for your team?
So one thing is the trust. How we begin our operation is very critical. So when we work with teacher, with that trust that they are uh, honest enough, they engage with the children, they work with them. Because to be very frank, the system is very complex, and we talk about the government system that is very complex, too much complex, because of their size, also because of the kind of work they have to do. That is also very that also makes the whole thing very complex. So when we work with them, we work with that trust that the problem identified by them are critical for them. We interact with them in multiple modes to ensure that they find the actual challenge they have. That is one thing. When that challenge is identified, तो एक कोशिश तो ये होती है कि when they develop the solution for that challenge, help them in secondary research. So the team which is in field work with them to find out that, okay, if this kind of challenges is for you, if this kind of challenges comes to someone else in other part of the country within India or other part of the schools within world, how they have solved this. So their engagement during this process of secondary research build also certain kind of trust for our team member that they are serious enough for working with us on the solution of these problems. And this is a very critical phase of everything. Now, with that kind of idea, this teacher engage with the stakeholder, which includes children, parents, their peer community, uh, their cluster of block resource people, other available resources within their ecosystem. So the team also help them to interact, to plan that interaction. So now this whole process of enabling, supporting, and just interacting with teacher and sharing key, you can do it. These three words, you can do it, creates a big uh, change in a teacher, to be very frank.
Right.
And this is basically the way we look at teacher, that you can do it. Because in reality, there are a lot of persons who always question teacher. आप अगर जाइए और जाके बात करिए बिहार के अंदर खास तौर से मैं कहूँगा तो ये टीचर पढ़ाते नहीं हैं, बच्चे पढ़ते नहीं हैं, स्कूल साफ नहीं है, ये नहीं है से you can do it. So this perspective of you can do it is simple. Now in this whole process, when we engage with them, we engage in multiple informal discussions. The formal process is one thing. The other thing is the informal discussion, where they find better ideas of engaging with these solutions. So I think that helps a lot to teachers to work on these things, at
The
least for teachers.
Right. I think the point of trust that you are saying is very central to this whole, creating this environment which is very supportive, and supporting them to take more experimentations and more risks. This is really very interesting as well. Here, I would like to also ask you about, you talked about, like this model where the local innovations are also given some kind of flexi fund, right? So could you share a bit more about that concept? Like how is any kind of proposal by the school or the teacher for any innovation reviewed? Who reviews it? And then how is it ensured, or how is it monitored that what the goal of that innovation was has been achieved?
So we have a national advisory council. So every teacher who comes with the idea or comes uh, with a design of solution, pitch their idea uh, to a committee, and this committee, based on certain parameters, approves this whole process of uh, support teacher through flexi funding. That is a that is one of the planned processes, to be very frank. In last 1.5 year or 2 years journey, during the process of development also, in a way, the role of internal team of Hagan Foundation is to shape this whole process with teacher that they actually able to pitch the ideas to the committee, and this whole process of flexi funding is available to them. That is one thing. uh, the other critical thing is ki, uh, it's like it's not a formal performance in appraisal, to be very frank. There is a committee where they pitch, that is one thing, but they're also learning how to pitch, how to share the idea in a 5 minute duration, because this is a new thought for a teaching community. So in this duration of last 18 months, they're learning to this whole thing. Pitching in a given time require different kind of capability for teacher. So if teacher has that capability, only then children have that capability. So teacher are also learning about this whole idea of this. But there is a national advisory council where they pitch the idea.
It's like a very entrepreneurial kind of system where these skills are being developed by teachers, and like you said that if teachers are able to this whole idea of pitching, etc., these skills can actually even have future entrepreneurs from our students as well, right? So it's a very interesting idea with respect to teachers being able to uh, also be educational entrepreneurs in a way, in their own right. Here, two more questions that we would like to ask you, Saurabh. One was with respect to what you talked about, the community volunteers who have really helped across India, and also in your project with respect to home learning, and ensuring that that learning and well-being of all children during the COVID process is ensured. Could you share a bit more about who these community volunteers are? What is their educational background, and what does their process look like? How are they identified, onboarded, and kept motivated to work?
Okay. So one of the key learning of, to be very frank, from last almost 17, 18 years in this sector is that The structures which we develop creates problems. Uh, the kind of so for volunteers, a key parameter is that they should the volunteer must have at least 12th pass. So they are so all of them who have done their 12th or their intermediate can be a volunteer. But there are a few cases where they have just completed 10. They contacted us sharing that I came to know about Aga Khan Foundation from someone, and they are supporting uh, to teach a youth in village. Can I also join you? And it's a true volunteerism. We never pay them a single penny. What we supported them is just for through a say learning at home kit or certain kind of precautions for COVID. So if someone is giving you your time with that spirit, okay, I want to do this for my village. What you will do? You will say yes or no. It's a difficult question for any team. So for us, volunteer is basically someone who can complete their 12th. But yes, there are people who have just completed their 10th and still they are volunteers. And they are working with us with the true spirit of volunteerism. Uh, we have a process of, say, weekly or fortnightly call with them, focused on their capacity building areas, not focus on how to teach and what to teach, to be very frank, because their career expression was very different. Everybody from them never want to become a teacher. Someone from a volunteer want to go to army, someone from a volunteer go want to police, someone want to be IAS. So the interaction with volunteers is basically on what they want to be in their careers. What is their career choices? That is the purpose of interaction of the volunteer. Uh, how to keep them motivated is again because they are motivated. That is what they opt for volunteerism. I never think someone who is not motivated can opt for volunteerism. क्योंकि अगर बहुत लोगों से बात करेंगे ना कि तुमको रोज 2 घंटे देना है, वीक में 12 घंटे देना है, तो बोलेगा भाई मिलेगा क्या? So someone is saying that I am giving my 2 hours continuously for next 3 months and I am committed to this, means he or she is motivated. Now continuing that motivation is might be through this kind of interaction on career choices, that you can say is one planned strategy. The other part of that is you can do it. Whatever you are doing is good. I think this whole word, you can do it, whatever you are doing is good. I think it has a power, and this helps a lot, at least for youth, to work in that environment. बिकॉज अगर आप फिर पटना से समस्तीपुर जाए, मतलब उस कंटेक्स्ट में बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. तुम तो इस एज में आगे कुछ कर ही नहीं रहे हो, तो that is what is our experience is basically.
Right. Thank you, Saurabh ji, for sharing your thoughts on that as well. And it's like some of the stories which you have shared today with respect to this that little girl who was making that Happy New Year card, and the volunteers kind of working with no expectation of something in return of of some material gain, etc. It is very inspiring, and we hope that the ones who are watching and who will be watching this video also are inspired by these wonderful experiences that you have shared. Towards the end, Saurabh, I would like to ask you specifically about how your project is looking at foundational literacy and numeracy. As we know that, I mean, now at the very top level of policy, we are, there has been now recognition that there needs to be a mission mode to achieve the foundational literacy and numeracy. And while with this new Nipun Bharat mission also talking about, by 2027, we achieve universal foundational literacy by grade 3. But we are also seeing many children, beyond grade 3 also not having these foundational skills. So if we specifically talk about literacy skills, or, oral language fluency, reading with comprehension, the basic numeracy. What has been the experience of your project with respect to improving outcomes in foundational literacy and numeracy? Any successes and any particular learnings which you would like to share with us today?
So one of the key thing is that our focus is on 27 competencies I have shared. Out of these 27 competencies, two competencies so out of these 27 competencies, each year we work on 5 competencies or 5 areas, basically 5 learning outcomes. So out of these 5 learning outcomes, 2 learning outcomes, which is literacy and numeracy, is fixed for continuously for next 10 years. That is one thing. So each year, this program is going to work on literacy and numeracy. That is one thing. The other part is that for each cohort, means pre-primary, uh, elementary, and senior secondary, for each cohort, again we define literacy and numeracy as a critical component, or and literacy and numeracy and mathematics as a critical component. For again each product which we have developed, or each process we have developed, like say learning at home kit. So in learning at home kit, the focus is on literacy, numeracy, and creativity. The whole material of kit is mapped with these 3 learning outcomes. In the same way, the whole idea of learning worlds is mapped with language or mathematics or certain kind of skill of problem solving. So idea is to focus on these things. In terms of approach, in content development, we feel that the contextualized knowledge, the contextualized material need to be promoted. Therefore, we use them as a part of content for these areas. And we have certain kind of focus on the idea of reading. So in voluntary learning spaces which are running, we are running to nowadays, in these spaces also, they have a planned session on reading. We have also planned open community kiosk. तो समुदाय में एक कियोस्क है, वहाँ किताबें हैं और खुली रखी हुई हैं. It's like नेकी की दीवार जैसे होता था. So in those spaces also, there are books which we recharge, and our experience is that children return books in these open spaces as well. तो कई बार लोगों को लगता है कि किताबें चोरी हो जाएंगी, ऐसा होता नहीं है. बच्चे लेते हैं, पढ़ते हैं, रख देते हैं, मैनेज करते हैं. And selection of these books are basically focused on their contextual reality. And so largely we feel that the whole language and balanced language approach, how we can mix that 2 ideas in our content and produce the content for teachers and children so that they can take it forward. That is the whole idea for literacy and numeracy. And these are commitment from this whole program that we are going to continue working on them for next 9 years or so from this year.
Thank you so much, Saurabh ji, for sharing your thoughts on that as well. And truly, it's a truly wonderful project, very very ambitious. Like how you are looking at, not just starting from the foundational, but going all the way up to higher education and these important critical points, and kind of making interventions based on these critical points on the education ladder. Truly ambitious. We are very excited to to know as to what outcomes in terms of research come out from the project, because it's like a 10-year participatory research, action research kind of a project. So we again wish you the very best to you and your team, and hope to have you again maybe sometime later to share more more of the successes that the project has been achieving. So on that note, thank you, Saurabh ji, for joining us today on dtalks.
Thanks, Masood. Thank you.